Let's take a look at the first question. In the parasternal long axis view, we will be evaluating the wall segments. Here, the question is asking which area cannot be assessed. These kinds of questions are considered the most basic anatomical questions in echocardiography. You can think of this as a question pattern that always appears on the exam. This is an image you can easily find by searching on Google. As you can see, it summarizes how the segments are divided according to each view. The parasternal long axis view corresponds to the image shown here. As you can see, the anteroseptal part is shown, and next, the inferolateral part is the wall segment visible in this cross-sectional view. Next, this area is labeled as medial, but it would be more accurate to consider it as mid. So, to summarize, among the inferolateral segments, the basal and mid segments can be identified. Similarly, for the anteroseptal region, both the basal anteroseptal and mid-anteroseptal segments can be seen in this cross-sectional view. You need to completely memorize the segments shown in this diagram. Let me give you a tip for content that simply requires memorization like this. You don't need to memorize it perfectly from the very beginning. When you first start studying, it's enough to just be aware that such things exist and have a general idea of the content. The most efficient way is to memorize it thoroughly about a week before the exam, right before you take the test. Because if you try to memorize each and every detail from the very beginning, you'll end up forgetting everything later on. So in the end, you'll have to study it all over again right before the exam. Since you'll have to review everything again before the test anyway, don't push yourself too hard to memorize everything at first. Just get a general sense of it and then do the serious memorization right before the exam. That's a much more efficient approach. Alright, let's go back to the textbook and look for the correct answer. Looking at what can't be assessed in this cross-sectional view, you'll see that the items listed here are the ones you can assess, as you saw in the previous diagram. The cardiac apex is a segment that cannot be identified in this image. This was a question with a very important pattern. For those preparing for the exam, I can say that you need to have this perfectly organized.